The numbers for Woody Marks might be confusing. It ain't all sexy, but the eye test says he's an impactful player that the Houston Texans need to continue to involve in their offensive game plan.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Got a Red Nation from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around. To my everydayers from the Himalayas, thank you for making the Locked On Texans your first listen of the day. And to the newcomers of the show, please enjoy today's episode. I'm your Texans credential media member and football analyst, John Hickman. I will be joined by my guy, Stan Norfleet, formerly of 790, but you guys know him from the Texan Squad show. We're going to dive into a look ahead. Denver is coming to town. They got to win this game to stay alive. Also, just a conversation surrounding the state of the Texans right now. But I'm opening up today's show looking at Woody Marks. That's right, X marks the spot. And the X is X Factor. And for this offense, I believe his involvement opens up a different version for this offense that can lead to more 9 of 16 games on third down performances. So that's going to be the conversation for today. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, when I look at Woody Marks, the impact that he has on the offense, and again, I open up the code open with, the numbers may be confusing. If we take a look at some of the numbers, 37th in carries on the year, 38th in rushing yards on the year, 37th in yards per carry at 3.8 on the year, 35th in rushing touchdowns on the year. But then I take a look at the other way he impacts the game. And these are for receiver numbers for running backs. 5th in touchdowns on the year with 2, 14th in receiving yards, 8th in forced missed tackles with 7 on the year. This is while averaging 12.7 yards per catch, which is 5th in the league. Marks has also an average depth of target at 2 yards, but of his 165 receiving yards, 156 comes from yak yards, showing his value as a playmaker in the passing game. He is 30th in the league in passing snaps, despite being 16th in the league in yak yards. And if you look at how some of these players are being utilized consistently throughout the league, Bijan playmaker, they're going to find a way to get him the ball, right? And Bijan's a different beast. CMC, different beast. My man Gibbs up in Detroit, those are different beasts. But some of these offenses have creatively found ways to get the ball in some of their running backs' hands. That's a little bit different here in Houston. Things like lining those guys up in the slot on passing downs compared to some of the guys in front of them. It's somewhat shocking that his numbers are as good as they are, considering the snaps played and the usage for Woody Marks. And not to mention, he has steadily improved his pass blocking since week 3 with only 2 combined pressures and hurries assigned to him per PFF. And this is in 89 snaps lined up on the field on passing plays. We saw his impact to the game on Monday, a 50-yard catch and run, right? We also know that through 8 or 9 weeks now, in my opinion, he should be more trusted on the field and passing downs over the likes of Adare. Even if he's not getting the ball, he has proven to be a solid pass blocker out of the backfield, which is something that he mentioned to me. I kind of lean on Nick Chubb with that one. That's how, our relationship, that's what I picked up from him. Nick Chubb has been a great pass blocking running back in the league for years. What I'm getting at is for Houston offense to have life, to build on some of the things that they were able to do in games like Baltimore, Tennessee, the good moments in Tampa, and then dating back to this Sunday's matchup against San Francisco, using Woody Marks as a Swiss Army knife is going to be essential. I once compared him to the likes of James White. I don't think Woody Marks is going to be a all-pro running back, and I could be wrong. And if he is, I'd be right. I'd be happy for him because I liked his game coming out of college. Maybe not even a Pro Bowler, but championship teams have players that do a lot of good things well. Master of all. What is it called? Whatever, master of all. But he's a guy that can, in the second half of games, especially when the defense is playing with a lead, yeah, he can get out there and make a guy miss it to an open field and get up the field, playing inside, running inside of the tackles, running the ball. He can be a dangerous pass catcher. He's done it, times this year, and I just gave you guys the numbers. And he's doing this in a limited role for the Houston Texans. And that's not to say that Houston should move on from Nick Chubb. I'm not saying that. Some of the things that Nick Chubb has done well for the Houston Texans this year. Excellent second down runner, 4.8 yards per carry, 9 first downs. This also includes 2.31 yards after the contact. Also, in his snaps on second down, the offense is in shotgun 63% of the time and in 11 personnel, and he has a 64% rushing success rate. So there has been value in Nick Chubb and what he's brought to the Houston Texans this year, and I'm wondering, is that because on second down they're kind of spreading those guys out and maybe Nick Chubb is getting some of those inside zone runs to where the defense may not be sure if he's getting the ball or not. But he's been impactful in his own way for the Houston Texans. What I'm calling for is just schematically more ways to get a speedy running back the ball. And he's not a 4-3 running back. He's not a 4-2 running back. But what he brings as a runner with the ball in his hands, especially when he's getting on the pass catch, when he's receiving the ball, angles, cuts, and determination to pick up yards. He can make a player miss. He understands how to run in the open field, and he has great vision for running back. So X marks the spot. Am I calling Woody Marks an X factor for the Houston Texans? James White was an X factor for the Patriots for years. Shane Vereen was an X factor. This is an offense that is largely comparable to that Patriot offense with years of Tom Brady. And oh, by the way, if we look at C.J. Stroud and some of his similarities into how he plays the game of football, you can say to Tom Brady. And for the second half of Tom Brady's career, he had those receiving backs out of the backfield that were able to take a 4-yard catch and turn it into 8. That was able to catch a swing pass out of the backfield and pick up 6 by making the guy a man or two miss. That's what the Houston Texans offense is going to need. And they only have one running back on the roster that can do that. That is Woody Marks. And so that's going to be important when Houston face teams that want to blitz them for over 35% of the time, send pressure, and get into the face of C.J. Stroud. That can be the ultimate haymaker for a quote-unquote knockout punch by the defense. Woody Marks moving forward should be Houston's X factor on offense. We can say Noah, we can say Higgins, but those guys are kind of expected to be playmakers. Houston chose to roll with Chubb and Dare and Damian Pierce at a time over Woody Marks, like they did the other rookies. But the numbers say, and I'm going back to it, in his limited role, 8th for running backs, forced missed tackles, 5th in touchdowns and receiving yards, 14th in receiving yards. And the number that I think all of us should fall in love with, out of his 165 receiving yards, 156 come from yak yards. When we come back, I got my man Stan Norfleet here on the Locked On Texans podcast. Before that conversation, let's dive into Mazda. Mazda craft cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety picks awards than anyone else, from footwork to breathwork. Athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention into how they craft every vehicle. Like our players, Mazda sweat every details because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And also, this is the perfect opportunity to tell you Texan fans out there, get to the game on Sunday. I don't want to see Broncos fans filling up the stands. And if you need to purchase a ticket but may not know where to and you don't want to feel used, the only place to go right now is Gametime. There's no better way, there's no better feeling, no better place than being in the stadium surrounded by other Texas fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. I understand it can get frustrating. That's why I use Gametime. I love Gametime. The app gives the advantage back to me and gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You will always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. And also, I love those zone deals. Pick a section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, download Gametime today. Texan fans, you guys know him from the Squad Show. I call him a friend, brother, but this is my guy, Stan Norfleet. Keeps it real.
What's going on,
Talking
man?
Texas. Did you know that you have a hashtag?
What's my
Hashtag Stan
hashtag?
keeps it real.
Oh.
And that's
Well,
exactly where I want to start. Stan, thank you for joining today.
already, man. Appreciate
State
you,
of the
John.
Texans right now, up and down, roller coaster. But there's been some good things we can pull from. And ultimately on this show, I like to talk about the good things. Sunday's matchup against a beat up 5-2 San Francisco 49er team. What were some of your takeaways from the game that maybe you hadn't seen, a lot of people talk about that were positive that Houston needs to build on?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps out is the play of the offensive line. CJ Stroud kept clean, no sacks allowed. I think that's probably the first time that's happened all season. And then that complements the second observation I had. 28 rushes and 118 yards combined between Woody Marks and Nick Chubb, averaging about 4.5 yards a carry combined. That's the formula. That's the highest volume. And I keep saying I'm going to go game by game and go look, and I haven't looked at it yet. But I would be surprised if those two backs combined for 28 carries or more than 28 carries in any other game. The offense was working in rhythm and in concert. The protection from CJ, and when you're running the ball in this offense, it allows CJ to play action. And we know when he's on his game, he can be a ball placement specialist and be proficient in the passing game and accurate and putting the ball where it needs to go. And that's how you get some 8 different receivers, as in receivers, skills positions, running back, tight ends, and wide receivers. 8 different guys caught a ball. That's how you keep the defense on their heels. So it was just working in harmony there. So the offensive line was, to me, the pivot point that allowed all of that to take place.
In the first segment, I talked about Woody Marks being a true X factor for this team, and I likened him to the likes of James White. I thought that Sunday's game, if there was any time during this young Kaylee era that CJ Stroud may have looked like Tom Brady, it was Sunday. But then we also see him utilize his running back and Woody Marks. What are your thoughts right now? Because me and you we were going back and forth for maybe 2 months on, I felt like he should have been a starter. You felt like Nick Chubb is the guy. And granted,
Right.
Nick Chubb, like I mentioned in the first segment, on second downs, Nick Chubb is averaging 4.8 yards per carry, has 9 first downs on second down. He clearly has value for this team. And I think as the season has gone on, he's gotten better. But when you view the young back who's gotten better in pass protection, who has the ability to, in the second half, run the ball well. We know how explosive he can be in the passing game. Do you view him as an X factor? Do you view him as a piece or moving forward the game plan needs to absolutely include Marks if Houston's offense is going to have a shot to be successful game in and game out?
I think he can be impactful. Yes, when you look at what he did on Sunday, he had a 50-yard pass play essentially, or 50 yards receiving. Excuse me, 49, 12.3. So you see the explosiveness there. You also in the run game. You talk about Woody Marks, 5.6 yards per carry on 11 attempts, 23-yard long run.
Yeah.
When you start seeing guys that tack on that type of yardage, it does get you excited about what they can do. And this is why some people get frustrated with Nick Caley, because when these types of players find themselves in other offenses, coordinators are able to scheme those guys open. Now, specific to Marks, I think that he can be an addition. He can be a piece. Dalton Schultz is a big piece. Woody Marks can be a piece. We know what Nico Collins is when he's healthy and what he's asked to do. But then you need to add some of those other guys. I think you're asking me specific about Marks. I don't think Marks is a bigger piece or will be a bigger piece than the likes of the Iowa State trio. I think that
Okay.
represents more
Okay.
of where this team is going. Now, I'm going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I've been the one for years since D'Amico has been here, because that's what he said he wanted to do. This offense, the key to this offense is running the football. So they're going to need Marks and Chubb to do so.
This is somewhat of a look ahead, but in the look ahead portion, I want to talk about Denver. That's the game coming up. The trade deadline is next Tuesday. Should the Houston Texans get busy? And what area should Houston target right now?
I get excited about a name like David Njoku at tight end.
Okay.
Somebody
No,
that
not on the return for K Stover, by the way.
Njoku's the better player. I understand not only do
Not
you
that
have
far. Not
Stover,
that
but then you also just drafted in the 7th round Luke Lachey. So that's a developmental piece. But if the Texans are going to have to make a decision in about a week, hey man, if we add another piece or two, will that get us a wild card round victory?
Hmm.
They got to make a decision. We're going, excuse me, or we're not. And tight end is one of those places. There's not going to be a lineman out there. Some people are saying Joe Patonio from Cleveland. I've also seen Wyatt Teller from Cleveland. Yeah, but then you got to think about the 2026 year. Both of those guys, to my knowledge, are making real money. So now you can't get left guard settled in. So now you're bringing in somebody else who may settle that spot. Ed Ingram has been just fine over there at that right guard spot. For me, I would have said wide receiver, depending on where the Cowboys are. Could a guy like George Pickens leave their program? A guy that's seeking a contract, but a game like this past Sunday versus the 49ers, John, it tells me they're going to roll with a healthy Christian Kirk for whatever that looks like, and they're going to allow these young guys to develop. Do I think that's going to be enough to get into an AFC Championship game in 2025? I do not. I've been vocal about that from day one.
Since
So
May,
the
I think.
yeah, it's no disrespect to the young guys. They deserve an opportunity to be here. But if you're asking me, do they have enough juice to be impactful in the postseason right now? I don't see it. And I haven't seen it for a while. So you're probably talking about tight end, maybe somebody in the secondary, maybe there's somebody's third corner somewhere that's made available. What about you? What areas for you would you not what they need? What do you think Casario would do?
Whew, that's a good question. Would do? I'm not sure.
Because he likes the wheel and deal. We know that.
He likes to will and deal, and sometimes I feel like Casario gives up more than he returns when it comes to player trades. Um, I
We
can't.
agree, and they're not touching wide receiver. You agree with that?
Unless there's a deal out there that is just too good to pass up. But I think they really like their young guys. David Njoku is a name that I think makes a lot of sense for Houston, considering Okay, I like Luke Lachey, but he's a 7th-round pick. He's a project, and he may be a practice squad player for the next couple of years before we see any
Perhaps.
real return.
Right.
Cade Stover, this is his 2nd year getting hurt, and by far, David Njoku is a better player. Dalton Schultz has been
Yeah.
killing it, by the way, so I have no
Don
problem with
Schultz having
him.
an excellent
But that's
year.
just another weapon out there for an offense that needs weapons. When healthy, David Njoku, he's not an alien, but he's a damn good player.
He's an
So that he
excellent
makes
player.
sense. I've been from day one loving the idea of Breece Hall here in Houston. I think that gives
Brees
Houston
Hall is another name.
a
Yeah.
real complete running back room that allows a team that wants to run the ball different ways to attack the rushing game. Excuse me. So for me, it would be Breece Hall and David Njoku, and I think those two players gives Houston an opportunity to add real weapons. Breece Hall can do everything on the field. Njoku can do everything on the field, especially from a receiver standpoint, and he can get up the field with the ball in his hands, and that just gives C.J. Stroud another option back there to kind of wheel and deal.
I'm cool with Brees Hall. He was active. He threw the
Had a good
game-winning
game Sunday.
touchdown.
Yeah.
He threw it to Jason Taylor's kid. I think the kid tight end in the Jets named Zach Taylor. Or not Zach Taylor. I forget the kid's name.
Mason
but it's
Taylor.
Jason Taylor's. Mason, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Zach Taylor being the brother-in-law. So, look, my point is Brees Hall was healthy enough to go play. He had, some questions about being nicked up. I would love to have Brees Hall, but you know what that means. You bring in Brees Hall, it's going to take away carries from Woody Marks.
But
And
it
it's going to signify the end of Joe Mixon. Mm-hmm.
And I think Houston needs to come to that reality that they need to move on. Joe Mixon, and I love Joe Mixon. I think he's a great player before we move on. Because of this year, and it feels like somewhat of an anomaly with Joe Mixon, the future is extremely cloudy. Now,
At the running back spot? Yeah.
At the running back spot, specifically speaking
Oh,
of Joe
specific
Mixon.
to Joe. Okay. Yeah.
That's from the outside looking in. We don't know what the timeline looks like. They may have a better idea, but it feels like they don't know because it feels like the injury is way more significant than what we thought it was.
Way more.
So,
even though he was in the stadium on Sunday.
he was in the stadium.
cited
Shout
in
out to
stadium.
Joe being there, and I think that added somewhat of an extra boost being out there with his guys. He was tweeting during the game. But Breece Hall gives you an option now and later. Woody Marks is an option now and later. Nick Chubb is still playing some good football, so he's an option now and later. But that gives Houston a full running back room. And it kind of gives you an idea of when the Patriots were, with Tom Brady, they always had 3 different style of running backs.
Yeah, it was matchup oriented.
Matchup oriented, and it does a few things well. When we come back on the opposite side, I wanted to dive into a look ahead at Denver. That's coming up on Sunday. Every game moving forward is a must win. This is really a must win. And for a lot of people, they must win this game for any Texan fan to believe in this team again. So we got more Locked On Texans talk when we come back.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back, Locked On Texan fans, listeners, and viewers. I'm going to also add to that conversation of who or what position the Houston Texans need to monitor or maybe look out in the free agency field. The safety unit hasn't really been challenged a lot this year. And when they've been challenged, it hasn't been a lot of plays that favor Houston compared to the opposing offense. So if I'm Houston,
well, they blame C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Every time something happened bad in the secondary, apparently it was C.J.'s fault.
It may have been C.J.'s, and moving forward the last few games, MJ Stewart has allowed a couple of big plays, and so Does Houston look to go out there and beef up their safety secondary depth, or do they feel like Reed, the rookie out of Penn State, you ain't no cop, Jay Reed? Do they feel like
That's what they call him,
do they feel like
J-Rock.
he can be an option for Houston moving forward? Houston is in a weird spot this year. They got a lot to figure out from now, the trade deadline and the offseason. But a look ahead to Denver, really good team in Denver. Lead the league in sacks. They give
36 sacks.
sacks. And it's crazy. They're getting after guys. I wonder what that number is going to look like by week 18. But Stan, in your opinion, as we look ahead to Denver, what are some of your expectations and some of the things that you want to see from Houston to pull out the victory Sunday at home in front of Denver Broncos fans? Because we know Texas fans ain't going to be in that building.
Yeah, it's going to take them a while to get there. Broncos travel very, very well. They're one of the blue blood franchises. A lot of wins in Mile High. However, this game is off 6-10 in Kirby. So, look, for me, it starts with the Denver Broncos. Before I get there, the Texans took the field on Sunday with a different energy. It was a different vibe. There was a commitment to a level of physicality that head coach of the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, admitted. Physically, we got our bleeps kicked by the dudes on the other sideline. So can they bring that physicality and replicate that again before you start getting into schemes? Then when you start talking about matching up, this Denver front, and they run an odd front, 3 down linemen, and it's going to look, they're going to flow in and out of what looks like nickel personnel. So bottom line is this front 7 plays and looks a lot more like the Rams, like Jacksonville, like Tampa. So when I'm asking, when have I seen the 2025 Texans go blow for blow with somebody in their weight class that doesn't have a backup quarterback or isn't missing their best defensive player? We haven't seen that yet in 2025. So I want to see, can they rise to the occasion and get these guys blocked up? Nick Bonito, you'll see him on the edge. He's an all-pro. They got another guy, Zach Allen, Pro Bowler. He's a good player. A familiar face back there in the secondary, Hufanga, who D'Amico coached in San Fran for several years prior to him being injured. Singleton, the inside linebacker, Cooper. Like, they're going to be names that maybe fans don't know, but I want to see, can they match up? Denver just got through smashing the Cowboys, and the Cowboy defense isn't good, but Denver's been rolling here now. Bo Nix and Sean Payton, what they want to do in running the football as they did on Sunday. And then you got Cortland Sutton on the perimeter. The offensive line has been giving up a bit more pressure, but that's still what has been Garrett Bowles and some of those other guys in there, Miners. So those guys have been okay. So let's see. It's not the Denver offense for me. It's, can the Texans defense outplay Denver's defense?
For Denver, not a good third down team in terms of converting, but neither are their opponents. That speaks to the defense as being great. They also allow 95 rushing yards per game. And so one thing that I don't want to see is Houston marrying to the run if it's not working. That's going to be something that if it's not working, because listen, I talk about Nick Chubb being really good on second down. Maybe that's the down that you kind of key in on. But the one thing that I don't want Houston to do is fall into the trap of trying to use the run to establish the entire offense. And then we're seeing more, second and 11s or 12, or we're seeing we're seeing Houston play behind the sticks more consistently when there
especially
are other
down
ways,
in that red area.
Especially down there in that red zone where it feels like once they get there against formidable teams, there isn't a plan, but Houston can't shoot themselves in the foot. They have to execute.
It's the same two things when they get in that red zone. So just to interject at your point, I'm sorry. So Houston was 1 for 5 in the red area versus San Fran. Those other 4 plays that they came away with field goals instead of touchdowns, it's I think in 3 of those 4 plays, it's either a penalty or it's a tackle for a loss, which makes 3rd and 18, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 9. So they're playing behind chains. We're seeing that more and more. Houston is the 31st of 32 teams in terms of red zone touchdown efficiency.
Absolutely. And when you go up against a team that's only allowing 3.8 yards per carry, like it's important that the game plan for the week is, of course, we're going to run the ball, but can we supplement the run by just doing some of the things that they did against San Fran? And that is lightning decision-making from the quarterback of getting the ball out. C.J. Stroud in the short area, middle of the field, was 11 for 11 and got the ball out at 2.15 seconds. The short field from 0 to 9 yards altogether, I think that was around 2.25 or 2.28 seconds. And that's 4 yards, that's 6 yards. Those type of things I think needs to be heavily considered for the game plan this week, because that Denver defense, you just can't run on them. And if Houston could, if they are stubborn about that, Stan and listeners, then it's going to be a hard, rough day for the Texans offense.
See, I'm going to push back and oppose the view. Here's what I would do. I understand why you're saying everything you're saying. For me, Houston plays best when C.J. Stroud is not dropping back, throwing the ball 39 times. With that offensive line, more things go wrong than right on a pass play. So you make your quarterback susceptible to getting hits. You know, C.J. will take his eye off the road. You know, he threw the interception on Sunday. So you turn the ball over against a good defense like this and a quarterback that can put some points up in his own right. You can't do that. The formula for the Texans is that time of possession piece that we saw. Now, it may not be as drastic as it was this past Sunday. They may not have the ball for 41 minutes. But if they have that
Which
ball
is great, by the way.
no question. If you have the ball, if the Texans can have the ball 35, 38% of the time, and to do that, you have to stay consistent with the run. I've seen Nick Caley too many times this season where you look in the second half and Chubb and Marks are combining for 6 carries, 7 carries. I'm like, what are we doing? You can't become one-dimensional like that. I don't think that's the key to the Texans beating this Broncos unit.
Guys, he's back on social media this week, I think. So make sure you follow my man Stan Norfleet at Stan
I've been under the weather.
Sportsman. Maybe just sick of watching that Monday night tape. So the Houston won on Sunday. You feel a little bit better. But thank you guys for watching today's episode. I'm John Hickman. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. To the newcomers of the show, check out the live squad shows post-game and every Tuesday. And also make sure that you follow, like, and subscribe to the Locked On Texans podcast page on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. H is up. Swarm this week. It's a very important game for Houston on Sunday. If they win, 4-4. Trade deadline is Tuesday. Things look a little bit more optimistic. The sun is coming out tomorrow, and maybe Houston can make that push for that 7th seed in the AFC playoff race. Until next time, ladies and gents, peace.